So when you think of the craziest moment from Power Rangers, I think most people think about when like Green Ranger was first introduced, right? Like he shows up and he's all ripped and doing karate kicks everywhere. Turns out this guy's the Green Ranger and he's evil and he takes all the Rangers like 5 whole episodes to stop him. Yeah, we all remember that. Every kid on the playground was talking about it, except I didn't because I grew up in Japan. When I think of crazy moments in Power Rangers, this is what I think of.
Today is fine day in California. Choose.
Now, I don't mean to be a Sentai purist. Like another Power Rangers series came out earlier this year, and it's just like it was another one with the original cast. It was like David Yost is back as Billy, and Zach's back and everything. And it was, wow, who is this for? This can't be for the children. It has to be for the freaking grown-ass men who are like, oh, it's the original guys that are... I mean, they do this sometimes. They had Jason David Frank come back as a few Rangers every once in a while because he's, let's be honest, he's one of the strongest people you can cast to play Power Rangers. There's this whole other world of Power Rangers out there that like not a lot of people talk about, so I want to talk about it. The first part, I'm going to talk about how good I think season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is. 2, I'm going to talk about its Japanese counterpart, and then lastly, I'm going to do like a... So let's start off with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Go, go, Power Rangers! Go, go, Power Rangers!
Not me, because I was a little bit too young for this era, but a lot of the people that are a little older than me and taught me martial arts were training with and were taught by a lot of the martial artists in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. My martial arts teacher actually used to train with one of the Rangers, I forgot which one, and I have a friend, you guys might know him, his name is The Modern Martial Artist. When he was younger, Jason David Frank came to his school and taught all these kids and made them really excited about martial arts, and apparently he was like super nice and he taught them how to do awesome kick. It was just like a fun, super cool time. There's just this personal connection that a lot of martial artists in the 90s and 2000s had to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You guys maybe don't know this, but the martial arts community is pretty small. If you train at a school, chances are you kind of know someone who's been in a movie or in like a martial arts thing. But one time I was training at this one jiu-jitsu place, and then Johnny Bosch just walked in and he was like, hey, what's up? And I was like, bro, you're Johnny Bosch. But on top of that, it's just a really good show. Check out the 5 characters that are the Rangers. They're just a group of teenagers who do martial arts because they think it's fun, and then one day they get teleported to like an alien base, and the big giant alien head is like, you guys are the Power Rangers now. I first of all want to just talk about that cast and like how there are some amazing martial artists on that cast. For one, this show casted actual martial artists. And 2, you can really tell that they had a real passion for doing martial arts. There are several episodes where you catch the characters training and talking about how much they love doing martial arts. And it feels so good to do martial arts. And when I train, I feel like awesome when I do martial arts, because sometimes you can do martial arts because you want to do martial arts. I don't know why in every story ever it has to be like someone does martial arts because they're dark and they're edgy. Sorry that these characters, you know, do martial arts because they want to have fun. I'm saying, can we have fun? Are we not allowed to have fun doing martial arts? Because it feels good to do martial arts. It's empowering to have the ability to defend yourself in any situation, and the confidence of someone being able to do so is really nice. And that's a nice feeling. It makes you feel good. Also, it's fun to wear belts and hit my friends and spin nunchucks. I'm sorry that not everything has to be a super edgy edgelord guy thing. So you want to freaking do martial arts because it's fun. But here's the thing I really like about these characters. These characters are just really, really good people. They're always training in martial arts, sure. They're always helping each other get good at martial arts. There's obviously a character in the group who's like the weak nerd boy who can't quite get it, but then they're always like, no, like keep it up, keep at it. If you keep practicing, you'll get better and better. And they give him the confidence and they give him the positive praise that he needs to help him do his thing. There's like 2 bullies, right? They actually do what you're supposed to do when you encounter bullies. They tell them to stop, and they don't allow the bullies to partake in any bully-like behavior.
Hey, muscle brains.
Come on, don't you guys ever give up?
Yo, man, why don't you just have a piece of cake and chill?
If they start like messing with Trini or Billy or anyone, the other ones will come to their aid and be like, hey, cut that out.
You two are a bad dream. Let him go, Bulk.
Hey, I got this.
And they never let the bullies get away with their bad behavior.
Okay, that does it. You're way out of line.
And the reason why these characters can do that is because they're confident individuals who are also really nice people.
We did not sign up for a geeky karate class.
Okay, Bulk. Maybe you're ready for some more advanced training techniques.
I'm so sick in every show starring teenagers of there's like the bully character, and then they'll bully someone, and then everyone else is like, oh, no. I hate especially when the teachers don't do anything. The teachers just watch like the characters tell everyone else to kill themselves, and then, you know, like they just stand by and do nothing.
You're shaking in your boots, you're so scared. That's why I hate you! I know that as a teacher, I should stop this fight now.
So there we go. That's why I think that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is a good show. Just a fun, wholesome, good show, and you can make the world a better place if you have that confidence instilled in you and you use it in the right way. Okay, in the American version, the big Zord that they all combine into is called the Megazord. In the Japanese version, it's called Kyoka-ga-tai Daijujin. In the American version, the sword that the Zord uses is called the Power Sword. And Jason's always like, give me the Power Sword! Ugh!
We need the power sword, now!
But in the Japanese version, it's called Kyoryuken, which means dinosaur sword, God Horn.
Kyoryuken! God Horn!
Like they're literally just like, get me the Kyoryuken God Horn. Anyways, that's my segue into Super Sentai. I'm not gonna be one of those YouTubers right now who are like, oh, this version's better because it's Japanese and it's less known by people. I mean, objectively, I guess it's better than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Right off the bat, the story of the show is just much, much better, which is hard to see at first because there's just stuff like this that happens. But Kyoto Sentai has like a legit good story. So I'm gonna talk about it, which means I have to kind of spoil it for you, so skip this video or don't, I don't care. In Zyuranger, Rita Repulsa is actually called Bandora. Get it? Haha, Pandora, Bandora. And there's this like old janitor guy that lives in Japan. You know, he's like the magic janitor. Like he's like the janitor that you meet when you're like having a tough time in life. Then he like gives you advice near like the bathroom he's mopping. And then you're like, thanks, man. And then you turn around to say something else to him and then he's like gone. So that's him. And he sees that Bandora's been released. So he's like, I need to awaken the Kyoryu Sentai. The Kyoryu Sentai are the 5 most elite warriors from ancient dinosaur clans that have been frozen in time for millions of years, shut the hell up, and are just like waiting to be released so that they can fight evil. And he's about to unlock Red Ranger, but then when he's about to unlock Red Ranger, the key to his pod breaks and he's all like, fuck! So they have to fight Bandora without Red Ranger. So they're fighting her and they're losing. And they're like, oh no, if only Red Ranger was here. And then Red Ranger just like kicks down the door to his pod with no key and he's like, you rang. And he like kicks the butt because he's like as strong as he is handsome. The setup's kind of neat, but here's where like the hard-hitting stuff is. A little bit into the first act of the show, we're introduced to the Green Ranger, and he's all like evil, and he's like, yeah, I'm evil, I'm green with it, I'm using the green strategy. They're like fighting him while simultaneously always fighting a new monster of the week. So then throughout the show we find out that the Green Ranger, his name is Budai, he's actually the Red Ranger, Geki's brother. I guess they were part of the same clan at first, but then they separated at birth because, you know, divorce, because, you know, it happens. But what we find out is that the reason why Green Ranger is evil is because when he woke up somehow, his cryogenic pod actually malfunctioned, and he is technically has been dead for millions of years. The only reason why he's alive is I think there's some weird magic mumbo jumbo that's keeping him alive, but only for 30 days, right? So every time he leaves his room where he lives in, I'm trying really hard not to say living room, the candle starts to burn burn for 30 days. And so that's why he's been doing like bad things, because like I guess every episode, whether the Kyoryu Sentai are trying to get some magical artifact or they're trying to find some ancient like stone or ancient like weapon or key, he's also trying to find the same thing because he believes that it could lead him to like the cure for death, I guess. And that's why he's like fighting them and being like a bad dude. They fight a monster every week and they sometimes fight Green Ranger. Geki finds out that Budai's his brother. He tries like to like bring him over to his side, but Budai's too obsessed with finding the cure that he doesn't listen. So at this point, we're maybe like in the third act of the show. Now, one day, Green Ranger has a dream. He's like riding along this nighttime carriage, just peacefully. And as he's riding, he passes by a bench. And on that bench is a little boy. And he's like, that's weird. I wonder who that little boy is. Then he's all like, what am I doing on this carriage? And he's like, excuse me, Mr. Carriage Driver, where are we going? And the carriage driver turns around and he's like, oh, we're just going to your death. You're gonna die, motherfucker. This is real life. You're gonna die. So basically, Green Ranger is dreaming that death is taking him to the afterlife. But who's that boy? Later on, he sees this boy and he's like, that's the boy from my dream. He finds out that this little boy is also going to die pretty soon. So Green Ranger kind of forms this small connection with him because he's like, oh, this kid is like me. He is going to die soon.
あどけない。こんなあどけない子が俺と同じように死ぬのか。ドラゴンシーザー、ポーズを取ってやれ。
And he eventually finds out this like potion that will like cure his death. But then obviously in an act of selflessness, he decides to give this potion to that kid so that kid could live on, and he doesn't. And it's like this really tragic, bittersweet moment where Red Ranger is like with Green Ranger and he's all like, no, it's okay, like I was being a terrible person because I just wanted to live so badly, and I'm glad that my final moments could be used to do something good for this kid who deserves to live more than me. Green Ranger dies, and when he dies, you see him again on that carriage, riding into the nighttime, but this time when he looks at that bench, that little boy is not sitting on that bench anymore because he gets to live, right? And he just kind of peacefully rides off into the afterlife, letting death take him. And then the Power Rangers defeat Rita Repulsa. They put her inside of a giant jar and they blast her into space forever, but it's okay because she's with her minions and she has a dance party. So that's Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. And is it better than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? I don't know. Because here's the thing, is that like, yes, this story is like way better and there's kind of an insane plot twist and there's this bittersweet moment. The Green Ranger story is the overarching part of the story, whereas in the American version, it was just, he was brainwashed. But at the same time, the American version has all these great characters and this cultural iconic thing that changed a lot of people's lives in my opinion. So basically what I'm getting at is that like every convention or comic book store, they're just so obsessed with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they cannot mentally move past Mighty Morphin Power. I just said how good of a show Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is, but like, it never goes away. How can something be nostalgic if it never goes away? It doesn't go away, it can never be nostalgic. On Netflix, it's like the anniversary of Mighty Morphin and what the they're back? And it's like, ew, gross, you're old. There's like always at a convention, there's like the Mighty Morphin stand and like giant statues of them. It's like commemorating 25 years of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And like Instagram keeps trying to sell me Mighty Morphin Power Rangers sweaters because I guess the algorithm knows how old I am. And then you go to the comic book store and there's like this dark, edgy comic book and like Tommy's evil and they have to go back in time and undo things, and the Pink Ranger is all like a dark, mysterious warrior. And it's like, why did you make it dark and edgy? I watch Power Rangers because I like seeing people in bright colors and spandex do different poses. But it's all like, oh, now it's like a comic version. And what is this? I will admit that the 2017 version of the movie was pretty good. I thought that was a great movie. I don't know why we didn't get a sequel. I thought it was awesome. So now you can make an informed decision, right? Like based off what you heard, now you can decide if you like the American version or the Japanese version. And that's the point of this video, right? No, because we still have not talked about Power Rangers RPM.
Red is the perfect one. Black is the brooding bad boy. Green is the clown, and yellow, well, she's the girl. So what are you supposed to be?
I'm Scottish!
I don't understand how this show was even made. Not only do I think this show is the best Ranger series out there ever, I also think it's one of the best pieces of television I've ever watched in my entire life. And you might think I'm saying this like from a biased standpoint of like, I really liked this show as a kid, but no, I watched this show like a few years ago. This show has such a love and a passion for Power Rangers, at the same time having that same passion for Super Sentai. The story is really, really good. There are some insane plot twists in it. The characters are all fully developed. They also progress throughout the show, which are two different things. They have their own original fight choreography in the Ranger suit. They have like battle mechanics that make sense. Great dialogue. The show manages to take itself completely seriously while not forgetting how to have fun. That line that I showed you from the beginning,
I'm Scottish!
it's from this show. And I know I said that that's the best line in the show, but it's not the best line in the show.
As the only other female in the group, I want you to know that my feelings of fondness for you are so strong, they override even my base biological instincts to undermine and sabotage you in an effort to monopolize the attention of the males.
I would now like to start talking about Power Rangers RPM. I do think that this is one of the best TV shows ever, so if you want to like stop this video or skip it or whatever, you could, but I'm gonna spoil it now. So here's how Power Rangers RPM starts. Yeah, it's the apocalypse. They're in the apocalypse. Before I watched RPM, I watched Power Rangers Samurai. I remember that RPM Red Ranger made a cameo. 5 samurai are fighting like the grinders, which are the putties from the RPM universe, and they can't defeat the grinders. And then Red Ranger from RPM just shows up and like just destroys all the grinders at once. And I was pissed because I was like, what the fuck? How can 5 samurai not take out these minion guys and one freaking carboy be able to do it? And then I was like, oh, because he was a Power Ranger in the apocalypse. He trained in the apocalypse. The 5 Samurai Rangers, they still go to school and, you know, do baking. No, this guy, he lives in the apocalypse. His brother is dead. He has a dead brother. People die in this show. The reason why they're in the apocalypse is because there's a virus called the Vengeance virus. And it's not like a biological virus, it's like a computer virus that took over all computers and all machines and made an army of robots and killer flying laser shooting things and took over the world by blowing everything up. So the only safe place left in Power Rangers RPM is this city covered in like a protective dome called Corinth. At the beginning of all this explosion stuff, they're actually closing the gates to Corinth and they're like, any last minute survivors, get in here. And we were introduced to these 3 people. Why are they showing these 3 people? I wonder if they'll have relevance later. So cut to our 2 main characters.
You're looking for Corinth City, Am I right? Fortunately for you, I can take you there.
Ziggy? Your name is Ziggy.
Yep, that's me.
So they team up for the time being. They drive past all the explosions and the barricades and evil robots that were created by the Vengeance virus, and they make it into the city. And upon making it into the city, they accidentally let a bunch of grinders in, and who are they saved by? Oh, the 3 people that we saw in the very beginning of the show who last minute made it into Corinth. And they introduced the Power Rangers with the hardest fight scene I have ever seen. I love the fight scenes in this show. They don't use a whole lot of Japanese footage. A lot of the fight scenes are original recordings, and some of them go really hard. I'm gonna be honest in here and say that I really have a disdain for shaky cam. I hate shaky cam fight scenes with a passion, and they shake the camera a lot in this show, but I'm willing to overlook it because of how good the rest of the show is. They added like additional powers that was never in the Japanese series to begin with. Like the wheels turning on their arms and legs, that's a thing that they added in, and it makes the fight scene so much more interesting because anytime there's a scene where the Rangers get grabbed or they're like in like a stalemate with the opponent, they can spin the wheels on their arms and legs, and it makes for a fun dynamic. Green Ranger gets grabbed by a million grinders around him and he can't get out, so he spins all the wheels on his body and they let go of him, creating this fun kind of style where they kick and punch and use lasers and swords and stuff, but also there's like a little grappling section going on where sometimes they'll grab someone or someone will grab them and they'll spin the wheel and cause damage to that opponent. So Dylan's all like, what's a Power Ranger? And Ziggy replies,
There. Those.
I love the editing in the show. Dylan and Ziggy get arrested for breaking into Corinth because they also find out after they scan them that Dylan has robotic implants. And then so from there, the episode kind of like splits into like two plot lines where the Rangers are trying to find a new Ranger to join them, and Dylan and Ziggy are just being Dylan and Ziggy.
And that was the first time I ever had the courage to look myself in the mirror and just love myself unconditionally, you know?
Summer, who's slightly attracted to Dylan, she's like, hey, I know someone who can maybe be my boyfriend, the Black Ranger. So Summer manages to convince the other Rangers with one of the best transitions I've ever seen.
Hector, you might want to let this one slide. Why?
What's this little fool gonna do?
So from then on, Dylan becomes a Black Ranger, and they're like, how'd you get these robotic implants? And he's like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? He's like, I don't have any memories. So one day they're like, okay, we need a Green Ranger. We need to go with the green strategy. So Ziggy puts together this audition for people who might be good candidates to be the Green Ranger, where then Ziggy's attacked by like some mobsters, and this one girl comes into his rescue and she just like kicks their butt. And she's like, oh, I was actually auditioning for Green Ranger. And he's like, you're perfect. Let me go get the Green Morpher. And when he's going to get the Green Morpher, he's told by like the lead scientist, Dr. K, the person that put together the entire Ranger operating series. He's just this mysterious man behind the screen. They don't know who he is. He's like, make sure you're really careful with that Green Morpher. We don't want it to get into the wrong hands. And he's like, what's the worst that can happen? Turns out Olivia Rodrigo is evil, and she's actually a robot that's working with the Vengeance virus. When she's like, I'm gonna use the Green Morpher and use the green strategy to take you guys down, Ziggy's like, oh hell no, and he puts on the Morpher and he activates it, and now he's like, I'm the user of the green strategy now. And I love this scene because it shows what a person who has no experience with any combat looks like using the super strength given to him from the power grid. These movements are so funny and clumsy, yet he's able to like jump really high and to like push off the ground and stand back up. And you can see the inexperience he has. Also, he has this new granted super strength. And like, I think that's great. That's a little touch that he could have just started whooping ass from the beginning, but no, they did it like very subtly. Now I did just mention the power grid. We'll get to that in a second. So after all 5 Rangers are together, you know, they fight a monster every week. Dr. K is discovered to be not a man behind a screen, but a tiny little woman, and they go into everyone's character development. Now, I'm not gonna talk beat for beat what the character development episodes are, but I will say like really, really good things I like about those episodes. Ranger Red's episode just shows that he's kind of This episode's serving as a little outlet into like a reoccurring joke where Ziggy is trying to emulate the Red Ranger's one-liners. So he keeps saying one-liners that are just not good, and that's the recurring joke of this episode, and I think it's actually really funny. Now, Flynn, the Blue Ranger, his episode is awesome. First of all, it's the episode where this line is from. I'm scared. Second of all, because he's such a simple character and his whole thing is that he's a good boy who wants to help people, they actually use part of this episode to build the world a little bit. The episode opens with all 5 of the Rangers asking Dr. K questions about the suits and the Zords and everything, and it starts to get into this weird little meta questionnaire form thing. Like at one point, Flynn asked Dr. K, why do we yell RPM? Get in gear when we transform, because it's kind of cringe, right? And she's like, well, it's a voice recognition software. Your technology is confirming that it's you using it and not someone else trying to use your morpher. And that's kind of a really good explanation to why every Power Ranger is always like, Tyrannosaurus! But then Ziggy says the most mind-blowing thing ever.
Sometimes when I morph, I can't help but notice this gigantic explosion right behind me for no apparent reason.
I assume you're referring to the residual energy runoff that are sometimes necessary to clear the suit's biofield channels during the morph.
I'm referring to the 6-story high fireballs like that one, right there.
which means that like the explosion that you're seeing behind them when they transform is not something that the audience is imagining, or not something that is like part of the theatrics that like they can't see but the audience can see it. It's an actual thing that's explained in this, and they can see the explosion behind them, and it's just this weird meta moment where you're like, oh my god, the explosion is real. She also explains the power grid, saying that it's like this metaphysical, intangible grid power source that encompasses the entire universe and all living things around it, kind of like the Force, and the only way to tap into it is using like some unconventional means, like super high technology or alien technology, or like using magic or being a ninja. It's not just this random power, it's this energy field that encompasses the entire world, and that's what every single Power Ranger from every series is actually tapping into. And that's why there's such a consistent theme of them all morphing into Rangers. Now the Yellow Rangers episode is pretty cool. What it does is that it shows her doing a bunch of cool rich girl activities like karate and riding dirt bikes, while at the same time plotting her own surprise party as her poor butler tries to take notes. Basically simultaneously showing why she's so good at fighting and karate and dirt bike riding, and also showing with that moment what kind of character she used to be in the past. Then finally, we get to Dr. K's episode. The reason why Dr. K is named Dr. K is because she was part of a government program before the apocalypse called Alphabet Soup, where they kidnapped a bunch of super intellectual children and forced them to do puzzles and write programs and encrypt data and do scientific experiments, and lied to all of them saying, you're all allergic to the sun, never go outside this facility. The kids in the facility named A through Z, and that's why she's Dr. K. So one day at the facility, they're like, so here are your new lab partners, a set of twins named Jem and Gemma. And Jem and Gemma are like super nice. They're the first people ever to treat Dr. K with real kindness. And she's like, why are you being nice to me? And they're like, no reason. And she's like, well, there has to be a reason why you're being nice to me. And they're like, no, that doesn't have to be a reason for everything. Which makes her question like why she's even there and why she's working on these spandex colored suits. And then she realizes that the government's lying to her. They're not allergic to the sun. They can go outside, and it's incredibly messed up that they're keeping them in prison there for so many years. She, with the help of Jem and Gemma, decide to bust out of there. They create this program. It's this self-learning AI program that can get through any security and overtake that system. And they use it to sabotage the government security system so that they can escape. The name of this virus is the Venjix virus. So she is the one that created the Venjix virus, the very thing that took over the world and made it into the apocalypse. The exact thing that's creating all the monsters that the Power Rangers are fighting every single day. And that's why she's so obsessed with taking down Venjix. That's why she's so driven to make the Power Rangers as strong as they can be. Because she feels guilty for creating this program, causing the apocalypse to happen, possibly killing her two friends. I don't know, they kind of ran off as the building was exploded, and that's why this evil entity exists. And all this because she just wanted to go outside.
No! You have to let me install the firewall to stop! Oh, I just wanted to go outside!
So at this point, we're like halfway through the show. We find out that Dylan has a sister. The Power Rangers fight monsters sometimes, but they usually fight Olivia Rodrigo. She's like the main villain, I guess, of this show. Not like the big bad, like she's more like Azula, or like Azula's the one always antagonizing the Avatar group, but Firelord Ozai is the big bad at the end. Same thing, right? So one day they're like, okay, Venjix is getting too strong. We need new Zord configurations. If we go into the wasteland, kind of like around where Alphabet Soup is, we might be able to find something. And they go into the wasteland using a Super Sentai reference.
Ginger?
Nope. Go Onger. Project Go Onger.
Go Onger is Engine Sentai Go Onger, which is the Japanese version of RPM. And that's the van that the Engine Sentai lives in throughout the entire show. So they go outside of the Dome of Corinth into the wasteland. And obviously in the wasteland, there's Venjix monsters everywhere and evil robots trying to kill them and everything. But then they realize that they're being followed, but not by a Venjix robot, something else. Gold and Silver Rangers. And these Gold and Silver Rangers are like ripped and sweet. And so they team up with the Gold and Silver Rangers and they bring them back to Dr. K. And they're like, hey, Dr. K, meet the Gold and Silver Rangers. And when the Gold and Silver Rangers unmorph, it's Jem and Gemma, the two people that were friends with Dr. K at Alphabet Soup. And Dr. K is like, Oh my god! After that, we get a few more episodes. They fight some more monsters. So one of my favorite episodes being this one episode where Dylan decides to leave the Power Rangers. The only thing is that he's decided to do this like 6 other times, at this point becoming a reoccurring joke. And the one who's always trying to stop him is Scott, because Scott is like, I'm the leader of the Rangers, I decide who leaves and blah 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 this, because he's like a lawful good character, right? But this episode shows that he's a fun lawful good character. So basically before Dylan leaves, Scott's like, I'm sick of you trying to leave, and he handcuffs himself to Dylan. At first I was like, oh great, it's one of these episodes where he handcuffs himself to his friend, he accidentally drops the key down a drain or something, and the funny part of this episode is that these two characters that don't get along are handcuffed with each other. But then what happens is that Scott takes the key and he throws it away deliberately, losing it forever, and he's like, you're not going anywhere. So the next series of events that happens is Scott enjoying the fact that he's handcuffed to Dylan, because that means that Scott is getting his way as team leader. And of course, Dylan, the brooding bad boy that he is all like, oh, this is so annoying. But like, that's so funny because that it just shows that he thinks this situation is like him winning and getting the upper hand, and it's not inconveniencing him at all. That's taking the trope and turning it on its head. And there's this kind of like nice moment between them where like, so both characters are obsessed with their car while simultaneously thinking the other person's car is a piece of shit. So they're both sitting in their cars with their hands sticking out the window and handcuffed. I don't get how, did they climb through the windows? And there's this nice moment between them where they have like a real connection, because usually they don't spend time with each other, but now they're spending a lot of time with each other. It was a good character bonding moment. There's even this really funny scene where Dr. K tells them, okay, you gotta go fight like evil robots, and then they do this.
And for Pete's sake, decide whose car you're taking first.
And what I love about that is it cuts to them showing up in Ziggy's moped, which I know I'm reading a lot into it here, but it shows that throughout being handcuffed with each other, they learn to understand each other, and rather than getting into one of their cars or the other, they both decide to compromise and use a completely separate vehicle because they now have a newfound respect of each other's character. And I know this is a real thing because after this, when Dylan tries to leave the Rangers again, because like I said, it keeps happening, Scott goes, I understand. And it's just like, oh my god, they used to disagree so much, but after this, now they actually respect each other. So it's a really good episode, and I think the funniest part of this whole episode is that they morph into their Ranger suits and they bust through the change, which means they could have done that the entire time and they just didn't. So now we're kind of at the tail end of Power Rangers RPM. Surprise, surprise, Olivia Rodrigo is Dylan's sister, but Venjix unleashes final master plan, which is to tap into the power grid and start controlling things from the inside. And what happens throughout this battle is that the Rangers are in their Zords, right? But Venjix is like, and he deletes all the Zords. But in the process of doing that, he also deletes Gem and Gemma, because I guess they were in their Zords. And so Gem and Gemma die again, and the Rangers can't morph anymore. Dr. K has been working on an antidote for a while for Dylan to suppress his, like, I guess he's part robot, so sometimes Venjix takes over him. And so when he used the cure on himself, he was like, hey, maybe the same cure will work on my sister. And it does, right? So she turns good and she's like, I'm so sorry for everything I did. And they're like, that's fine and everything, but we need your help. We need you to pretend to still be evil, sneak into Venjix's base and hack into his system so that we can access the power grid again. So while she's doing that, the Rangers decide to sneak into like the warehouse where Venjix is. And then once they're able to morph again, they're gonna launch a sneak attack on Dylan, though, runs off because he's like, I need to go make sure my sister's okay. And Ziggy stays behind because he's the one protecting Dr. K. Gem and Gemma are still dead. And then so finally, Olivia hacks into the power grid and blocks off Venjix from accessing it again, at the same time giving the Rangers back the ability to morph, which results in the coolest transition in the entire show.
Rangers, you're clear to morph.
And they start fighting Venjix. Now here's the cool thing, is that they don't have their Zords back, so they have to defeat Venjix with a fist fight. And I love that because the fate of the world is dependent on them just beating the crap out of Venjix, and that's freaking awesome. They've used every angle, they've expended every power Zord, they've used all their weapons, and it just comes down to them and Venjix just punching it out. And then they drop a building on him and he dies. And that's the end of Power Rangers RPM. So you can see why now I think it's so weird that people are so hung up on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right? My God, it's like all the time with Mighty Morphin. The best show ever. There's no other Power Rangers better than Mighty Morphin. I'm gonna read the new comic book because it's the Mighty Morphin and it's all edgy. Just go watch Power Rangers RPM, you fucking cowards. Just go do it. Just do it now. It's free on YouTube. Just go watch it. It's good. God. If you genuinely like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, that's fine, because like I said, a lot of people have a personal connection to it. Maybe there's something better out there. Maybe there's Mighty Morphin, but some people along the way have perfected the formula and they've made Power Rangers RPM. And like, maybe there's more to life than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Oh, and the reason why I'm not talking about the Japanese version of RPM, Engine Sentai Go Under, is because it's not very good.